Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Success Live. My name is Brian Galicia, and I'm super grateful. I lead our global Dynamics ISV business here at Microsoft. And we have another great ISV to showcase today in Derek and Chris from Exeevo. And before we get started with them, I'll give you a quick housekeeping items just to give everyone context for what do we do at this show. So the purpose of this is really to highlight our amazing Dynamics ISV ecosystem. We know that there are so many amazing ISVs that you can look up in AppSource and look up in our different marketplaces. And this is a way to kind of showcase the BizApp specific ones that really drive innovation and business outcomes. And you can see that's so exciting because more and more of our ISVs are adopting generative AI, Copilot scenarios, and Exeevo is one of those leading forefronts, specifically in the industry of life sciences and pharmaceuticals. So the other is that as we go through the process, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. So if you want to take the time to type in, maybe you're watching from Europe, maybe you're watching from somewhere in the US or someone in Asia, we'd love to showcase you, to give you a quick shout out for taking the time to watch live. We'll do that. And then during the conversation, if you have a question you want to ask, because this is a live show, it's not recorded, it is a live show. I'm happy to ask Derek or Chris that question. And if you want to put in the LinkedIn window, that question, I'll see it and I'll be able to showcase that to both of them. And then finally, if the information that we're talking about is resonating with you, we'd love to have you just use one of the emoji icons, like, support, etc. That'll give us some insight after the event that the information is actually resonating with the people watching. So without further ado, Derek and Chris, thank you so much for taking the time on a Monday. Happy post Father's Day, as we kind of mentioned. I know for those of you around the world, Father's Day is celebrated on different times depending on where you're at, but at least in the United States, it was actually this past Sunday. So welcome both of you. Thank you so much for making the time. And so the first question I always ask my guests is, what's your role at the organization? And what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing to kind of start the icebreaker? So Derek, we'll start with you. Why don't you share a little bit about what you do at Exeevo? Of course, you're the Chief Executive Officer for Exeevo. What does that mean? And then what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile you're open to sharing?
Sure. Thanks, Brian, and thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Exeevo. I've been in this role for about 9 months. I originally joined as the Chief Commercial Officer, and I've been at Exeevo now for nearly 3 years. In a few months, it'll be 3 years. So as the CEO, obviously, I manage and run the organization from an operational and a strategy perspective, and basically look to understand how we can best serve our clients and obviously grow as an organization. One of the things that is not on my LinkedIn profile is that I am very keen on playing sports. Have played tennis, for example, since I was very young, probably started around 8 or 9, and actually was reasonably decent as a junior. Not great, unfortunately, but I did actually leave school early at 15 to try and improve on my tennis skills. But unfortunately, since I'm here, obviously, I did not make it onto the professional tour. But, I still play tennis today at a pretty reasonable level in different leagues around the US, including USTA leagues. And I also play a lot of golf. I find golf a little bit easier given the advanced years than the tennis, but I enjoy both. So that's definitely one of the things that's not on my LinkedIn profile and something that I really enjoy. And I think it helps to relax and give me some distractions outside of the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely, Derek. And what better? Like, you could be outside. I mean, well, most of the time, depending on where someone lives, but tennis is best enjoyed being outside. And of course, golf, you can't really play indoors. You could in like an indoor golfing range, but amazing and much better than me because I love sports as well. But those are two sports that I never got a chance to really do. It's more basketball or softball types of things, but I love it. And I assume you got a chance to watch the US Open in North Carolina. I'm sure like any golfer that I know watches those types of big events. So I assume you were watching the US Open over the weekend.
I did. I thought it was great too. Definitely a challenging course, that's for sure, with everything rolling off the greens there. Yeah, but I was pretty happy that DeChambeau won. I thought he played great, and he's definitely changed a lot over the last few years too. So
yeah, I love it. I love it. So thanks, Derek. Hey, Chris. So we'll go to you. Same question. Your role at Exeevo, and what's something not on your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing with all the viewers today?
Thanks, Brian, and hi, everyone. I'm Chris Wade, AVP Strategic Solutions at Exeevo. Just one thing, it's like, delighted to be the 99th episode of ISV Success. That's, one off three figures. That's pretty cool. So my role at Exeevo is to manage our day-to-day relationship with Microsoft. We are a Microsoft technology partner, and that's absolutely critical to, our development, our growth, what our solutions are capable of delivering for our clients in life sciences, but also, a lot around our market engagement, our solution and commercial strategy. I'm sure, sort of a lot of you know me from LinkedIn, trying to sort of, get involved in conversations around, which direction the industry has been taking and where they should be going around their customer engagement strategy, both in pharma and in other parts of life sciences. In terms of something that's not on my LinkedIn, I'm going to cheat slightly because it is actually on my LinkedIn profile. It's on my image header and sort of combines two things that I'm sort of, deeply interested in. And one is photography and one is rowing. So I sort of learned how to row when I was at school in Australia. Really suited somebody who, unlike the two of you, has zero hand-eye coordination. So, anything involving a ball was a bit of a disaster. But I discovered, really love the sport of rowing, whether it's in a crew or in a boat by myself. And also around the same time, discovered photography. So I've been combining those, as a real sort of, hobby and passion for the last 30 odd years. I've been at Exeevo for nearly 4 years, and have spent pretty much my whole career in the sort of, life sciences, CRM and digital space. People like Dendrite, where I actually used to work with Derek once upon a time, Veeva, IMS Health, and other, companies in that ilk.
I love it, Chris. And when I think about that background of photography, what's your favorite type of photography? Is it people? Is it backgrounds? Is it like
sport?
Sport. Oh, it is sport. Okay,
yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think that's probably what got me in the first place. It was going to a school in Australia. Sport is everything and everywhere. So it was sort of the perfect place to just take lots and lots of pictures. And funnily enough, there was a pretty good market of people wanting to, photos of themselves, photos of their boyfriends, photos of their girlfriends. It helped to pay for, film and paper. So I could, in a pre-digital age, churn through lots of rolls on a Saturday afternoon at a big sporting event and spend the night in the dark room. Lots of family stuff too along the way, but it's, my youngest daughter is really into sailing these days. So just sitting on the riverbank watching dinghies is, my idea of, photographic heaven.
Yeah. I can't imagine, because I dabble in photography, but not as some other people with all the little features and gizmos. I typically keep it on automatic, which is probably, as photographers, not the best place to do it because of all these settings you can do. But I can't imagine the telephoto lens, because I know some photographer, my photography friends, and they pull out their camera bag, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have like 5 lenses, and there's like huge.
It's not a bag, it's a suitcase.
Yeah, suitcase. Yeah. I love it, Chris. And then really quick on the rowing, my family got a recently chance to watch Boys in the Boat. So shout out to anyone who's never watched that movie before. It is an amazing movie. Cool. And of course, being from Seattle, I wasn't born here in Seattle, but of course I've been here a long time. And of course, for those of you who've never seen the movie, it's actually based upon rowers from the University of Washington, which is just in the backyard of us. So I love it, Chris.
Yeah, we've got Henley Regatta coming up in the UK, started first week of July.
I love it.
That's a sort of central part of the rowing calendar over here.
I love it. Hey, so really quick, I'm going to do a quick shout out before we get to the questions. So thanks, Jessica, for making the time to watch from Idaho. Jill from Minnesota, thank you so much. Dr. Imran Banat, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, from India. Thank you so much. I know it's super late your time, so I truly appreciate it. And then Derek, you'd be appreciative of Jill's comment. Yes, Doshinbo, the mad scientist of golf. And to your point, I was while I didn't get a chance to watch it, I did see some of the replays, and some of the shots. To your point, were like, oh my gosh, are we in a what do you call it, a mini golf thing? Because it's like some of the angles of when he was hitting the green. I'm like, okay, the roll of that ball is going in weird ways. But anyway, that's the purpose of golf. So one of my favorite questions, just to start it off, and people who watch the video at the very beginning got a teaser of it. And of course, we're talking about pharma and life sciences, but maybe Derek, and then we'll go to you, Chris. Derek, explain, what does Exeevo do? What are the business outcomes you hope to drive in this specific industry? Because it is a industry, of course, there's a lot of different things when you think about buyers and selling and customer service and all these things that pharma and life sciences kind of have to do. But tell us a little bit about what is the premise of Exeevo and the business outcomes that you help to solve jointly with Microsoft.
Sure. So, primarily what we offer, Brian, are SaaS-based solutions for omni-channel, right? So, excuse me, we're looking to capture, the customer engagements across the organization through different channels, including the rep, but obviously not only the rep. So ultimately, what we're looking to do for our customers is improve the customer experience of their customers that they have with their organization. So that's our primary focus. And I think, the underlying Microsoft technology stack that we utilize is really differentiated from some of our primary competitors in that it is a single platform. Everything resides within that one platform, and therefore it's a lot easier to really integrate those different engagements across the entire enterprise. So that's really our primary focus. And I think, this omni-channel approach really enables for our customers new commercial models, right? In the past, it was really historically, reps calling on HCPs as certainly the primary channel. But I think today there's much more digital emphasis from our customers, many more channels in terms of how they engage with their customers. And the customers could be HCPs, but they are also organizations and even patients. So I think, within the Exeevo platform, we enable all of those different channels and all of those different customers. And then just one last point, I think since it's so dominant right now in a lot of the conversations that we have with customers and just in general, AI is really going to have a huge impact, I think, on not only our solutions and our customers, but in terms of the way that organizations think about how they engage with their customers. And I would sort of characterize it as, because AI has been around for a long time, right? I can remember, even a couple of decades ago that we were doing primitive level, AI type analysis, if you will. But I think all of that was generally evolutionary, sort of incremental. I really think that the new capabilities that are coming out and are out there now in terms of OpenAI and Copilot is really revolutionary. And I really think it's going to change the way that our customers think about how they engage with customers and really, improve that overall customer experience.
Yeah, I love it, Derek. And I don't disagree with that. I think the way it is showcased in the video at the very beginning, the way that AI can really help to drive the innovation and the data that's sitting in there that can unlock when you can simply put in a prompt that gives you the information and it scours all the data across these different things to then drive the behavior. And I love it. And you talked about too, the omni-channel experience on the front end to allow a pharma life science company to drive the buyer, if that's the right term, drive the customer experience end to end throughout that journey is pretty impressive and important. So Chris, anything to add to the commentary before we go on to the next question?
Yeah, and I think it's sort of like, leaning in on the, the introductory video, the whole concept of sort of what do you want to solve today is central to this. Because if you look at how CRM in pharma in particular, but, really probably across many industries has sort of worked its way out. If you wanted to find something, you had to go looking for it. And so it was this whole sort of form-based searching through page after page to find that, a bit of information that you needed to help you. Whereas, what Copilot and, opens up is that possibility not just of a prompt to get a set of answers, but something that's actually then deeply embedded back into the application experience. And I think that's really what makes us, truly excited about what we're now able to do, and really only able to do through the capabilities that Microsoft has enabled through things like Azure OpenAI Studio, and how you can design, verticalized, custom Copilot experiences that work with the software. So it's not just a bot. It's not just a search tool. It's actually helping you do something that you couldn't do before, or do something far easier and far faster, than was the case. Because if you look at, say, one of the things that sort of shifted, and it's I think really nicely encapsulated by what Everest Group have done, how they define this space. They've moved the goalposts from CRM, which we tend to look at, as Derek said, quite an HCP or doctor-centric, rep-centric way of working, to something which is a customer engagement platform. So all of your different points of engagement, all of your different customer processes, to Imran's point, they need to be interoperable, and there's literally no way of doing that manually. It's just too complex. There's too much data moving around, too many balls in the air. So you need capabilities like Copilot to help you make sense of this ever-changing landscape, which is very rich, a lot of data at play in these organizations, which has traditionally been very, very siloed. And we see, the companies that we're talking to today, they're trying to find their way out of that jungle of everything being, separate solutions, heavy integration, a lot of middleware, a huge lift just to simply get things talking to each other, let alone, actually working together to solve some common objectives.
Yeah, well said, Chris. And that really resonates with what Dr. Imran said, is like interoperability is the key for a successful omni-channel journey. And I agree, like it's all this data that's sitting in all these different places. And at the time that you need it, how is that information surfacing up in the business process flow that pharma and life sciences companies have to follow, particularly very stringent because of all the privacy, all the specific things that go into making a pharmaceutical drug, and all that process has to be very well followed and documented, and everything that you and Derek had said is spot on. So
one thing to add to that, Brian, is, when we think about these organizations, they're very data rich. Life sciences organization, they're complex. They hold enormous amounts of scientific data about their medicines, about how they function at a disease level, and they also hold a lot of information, particularly in markets like the US, where of course you have highly granular data about individual prescriptions, about claims and reimbursement processes and the like, that could open up a tremendous amount of discovery around and how you set plans and where you should be focusing your efforts. But again, that challenge of how do we manage all this? And we think one of the key ways which the Microsoft model is really fundamentally different to what customers have been working with today is this decision-making framework sits within their own real estate. So, their cloud tenant, that is all of their corporate assets, all of their communications, where their data centers are, etc. This all becomes accessible without it having to be enormous, multi-million-dollar, warehousing and integration programs just to make things talk to each other. And we've got to move past that kind of, way of thinking about, how we manage information. So you see huge amount of excitement, people talk about fabric and stuff like that, and it just all works together, and that's what makes it so amazing and exciting.
Yeah, and well said, Chris, because you think about it, that's a good lead into our next question, which is kind of what's been the Exeevo experience, because I've known Exeevo for many years. And the Exeevo, gosh, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, was showcased in one of our marquee events because of this amazing innovation you're doing across the Microsoft cloud. And you talked about it, Chris, like this innovation, you're on the forefront because you showcase what you're doing with Copilot with Microsoft. The integration or the capability to leverage Microsoft Fabric, which is the data of how does the data move around, and the information that's that's there. So maybe you can spend, it's hard to believe, like, man, 9 minutes before we end our show, but maybe both of you can briefly just talk about what's the experience been like, and then we'll get to one of my favorite questions, which is like telling some customer stories. So
I'll do my little,
Oscar
acceptance speech, because I think the ISV success program has been tremendously important to us. We've worked with some really great people. Jess, who is our global PDM today, but her predecessors, Alberto, Larry, Joe, in the PDM organization, and of course their colleagues on the PTS side. So really knowledgeable and passionate people, George Corrigato, Sonal Bordia, Ricardo Maja, and many others who have been involved. Today, the work we're doing around Copilot and investigating how this incredibly fast moving area can be best harnessed. So as a partner, we're not going down any blind alleys in terms of our development approach. We're working with the Microsoft capabilities in the best way, and that has absolute and real value to us as a SaaS solution provider, that we're making the best possible use of this very fast moving world of Microsoft's capabilities.
Yeah, I love it, Chris. And just because we're going to potentially run out of time, let's go directly into the question of what are some stories of examples of the benefits? Because you and Derek have really described in great detail, like the value that you bring across this omni-channel scenario for licensed pharma. But maybe you can give some customer stories of some of your favorites that both of you have been exposed to. So maybe Derek, we'll have you go first, and then Chris, you can apply yours with some of your favorite customer examples.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. So I think one of our biggest customer success stories has been with a large medtech organization, depending who you look at, one of the largest in the world. So, we started with them in Asia Pac, in India initially. That program, was successful. It was expanded to North Asia and then Southeast Asia, and now ultimately Japan and Australia and New Zealand, where we now have roughly 4,800 users in the APAC region. And now that program is going to be rolled out globally. So it's going to end up being roughly 17,500 users globally on the Exeevo and Microsoft platform. And I think one of the primary benefits, and there are a few that they've seen in terms of the migration from Salesforce to the Exeevo platform, is the ability to really improve that customer experience that I talked about. In the past, they had many different systems that touched the customer, and it was very difficult for them to understand all of those different touch points, all of the customer engagement across the enterprise. So this new platform really enables them to really help them better understand how they're engaging with customers and ultimately improve that customer experience, while at the same time also significantly lowering their total cost of ownership. So I think that's a great success story for us, obviously, as well as our client. And I think it really demonstrates a single platform.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Derek. Yeah, and what a great example too of someone that was leveraging a solution and realized, hey, there's something that offers even a stronger ability for us to drive that, and able to take that opportunity to migrate someone over to a solution that's really providing the scenario. So we'll go to you, Chris. We have 5 minutes left, so maybe you can spend just a few minutes before we go back to both of you and kind of talk about next steps and how people learn more. Do you have a favorite story you can tell in about a minute?
Yeah, sort of two really quick ones. So, the work we're doing in China now. Obviously, China's got some very unique requirements around data privacy and data residency. And, we're approached by, a large, global pharma company around their requirements. And, part of that for them, again, is around consolidation. They had different CRM systems. They had a separate system, again, for managing all of their events, tens of thousands of those that they run each year. So, as well as meeting their compliance requirements, they also had a big bar to clear around the chance to consolidate and improve their engagement program. So they moved from 3 separate systems to 1. Another example in Europe is we've got a client there who they started migrating off their legacy field solution, and the first part was they needed to support the reps. So they started off with a field CRM module, but over time, the whole objective for them was they knew that they needed to move in the direction of omnichannel. So that required tight integration between their field operations and what their marketing department was doing. So having that marketing and face-to-face engagement in the same solution, being able to manage in a really coordinated, tightly connected way, is allowing them to be massively more effective and impactful with their customers. Particularly, they compare themselves to their competitors in the industry who are still often sort of running in parallel, really struggling to coordinate their customer programs.
Yeah, well said, both Chris and Derek. And I love it because you gave really good examples at a global level. I mean, around the world, because you think about life sciences pharma, these are not just companies that are based in one location. These are companies that are doing major business across many different geographies and locations. And both of you said it, it's like you're pulling all these disparate systems together in the ability to then drive this omni-channel experience end to end across the customer story, marketing, service, sales, etc., all coming together in a very nicely integrated capability. Yeah. So with that being said, with 2 minutes left, we'll go to both of you, and we're on LinkedIn, of course. Hopefully you can connect with both Derek and Chris because they're both very active, share really good insight on the industry and scenarios on their LinkedIn profiles. But what are things where people can learn more, especially Microsoft sellers, other partners, or potentially a buyer that comes across this and that's in pharma going, oh, this is super interesting. Never came across you before, and seeing that, what are some things as a call to action you want to supposedly call out for people to learn more?
Why don't you go ahead, Chris? Take on.
Cool. I mean, I'd always start with the obvious things. Look us up. There's a lot been written in recent, the last year and a half by people like Gartner, people like Everest around this space, and the analysts are recognizing that Exeevo, what we can do with bring to the table with Microsoft, is different and better than what they've been working with, historically. This has been a pretty unchanging space for a long time. So it's ripe for modernization, it's ripe for innovation, and obviously there's some interesting dynamics going on the pharma side, at the moment, which anyone in that world knows all about. But yeah, also obviously reach out to any of us or the Microsoft sellers.
Yeah, no, that's great, Chris. And I put a couple of things in here, Exeevo.com, and then of course this other one, ak.ms/Exeevo, which goes to one of your solutions on AppSource. Yeah. That gives a lot of great insight and detail. So I want to thank both of you for the great partnership, the conversation today. And as we wrap up, we're going to show one more video, but any final comments or parting words that you'd like to say, Derek or Chris?
No, not really anything else, Brian. Just want to thank you for the time and the opportunity, and look forward to obviously working with potential new clients, but also obviously the Microsoft sellers as well, because I think together we really can, be very successful and really take some business away from Salesforce and the like. So thanks again for the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate the partnership. Chris, any last words before we wrap up? Okay. No, well, I want to thank everybody for watching the event, whether you're live or watching the replay. We truly appreciate it. And to Chris's point, we are on episode 99. It's hard to believe. So next week we'll have our final episode, and I didn't time it this way, but it just kind of worked out. A final episode for our fiscal year. So again, we do these typically every Monday at 8 o'clock to showcase amazing partners like Exeevo and the work that they do. So again, I want to truly thank both you, Derek and Chris, for the amazing partnership. Thank you. And let me play this last video, and hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.